A night in the ancient city of Athens. Gently shut your eyes and allow the clamor of the modern world to melt away. The year is 430 BCE. The sun has recently slipped below the western hills of Attica, and the brilliant white marble of the sacred Acropolis reflects the last hues of daylight. You've stepped out of your world, but in the heart of the ancient city of Athens, a city built of marble, shaded by olive groves, of whispered prayers to Athena, of sandals on worn cobblestones, a gentle breeze from the Saronic Gulf touches your face softly. It wafts with the fragrance of the sea, mixed with smoke from evening fires. Somewhere nearby, the laughter of children echoes down a narrow street. The day's labor has ended. Merchants shutter their stalls. Potters stack their creations for tomorrow's sale, and farmers return from the fields beyond the city walls. Athenian life slows, but it does not stop, not yet. As you stand at the edge of the agora, the city's central square, you see oil lamps being lit one by one, casting golden halos against sun-dried walls. The shadows grow long. The marble columns seem to breathe in the cooling air, standing tall and silent, bearing witness to thousands of lives passing through time. The sounds of the city shift as day turns to night. The sharp clatter of craftsmen fades, replaced by the low hum of conversation. Somewhere, a flute begins to play, a haunting, lonely melody that seems to drift above the rooftops and settle softly in your mind. In the distance, the Parthenon sits proudly atop the sacred Acropolis, a beacon in the fading light. Torches begin to flicker along the steps leading up the sacred hill. Priests move slowly among them, robes rustling like autumn leaves. Tonight, as every night, offerings will be made. The gods must be honored. But here, where you stand, the world feels smaller and more intimate. A cat darts across your path. Two women carrying baskets pass you by, murmuring about the price of figs. A man leans on a stone wall, lost in thought, perhaps about philosophy or war or love. This is the ancient city of Athens, not just the cradle of democracy, but a place of flesh and blood, of dreams and dust. You begin to walk, slowly. There is no hurry here. The streets are uneven but familiar. Your sandals tap lightly on the stones. Above you, stars begin to appear. The same stars Socrates may have once pondered. The same stars that watched over this city when it was nothing more than a hilltop village. They are ancient, older than myth, and they shine down now as they did then. Let the city surround you. Let your breath match the rhythm of its heart. Let the past unfold, not as history in a book, but as a living world, soft, quiet, and waiting to be remembered. As you continue your gentle stroll through the stone-laid paths of the city, you notice how life shifts its form after sundown. The hum of voices becomes a soothing chorus, woven into the breeze that slides through narrow alleys and temple courtyards. A baker's door stands slightly ajar, letting the faint scent of still-warm bread curl out into the night like a gentle welcome. Not far from him, a small group of boys sit cross-legged, exchanging exaggerated tales of gods and monsters as oil lamps flicker beside them. You pass by a fountain where water trickles endlessly into a marble basin, cool and clear. A woman kneels beside it, filling her jug, her movements slow, deliberate, the sort of rhythm only found in those who do not rush through life. She hums a tune under her breath, and for a moment you feel time pause. It's not just a city you walk through, it's a lullaby written in stone and shadow. Somewhere overhead, an owl calls from a tiled rooftop, and the sound echoes softly down the corridor of time. You glance upward. The sky is dark now, deep and velvet, stars glinting like pinpricks through the dome of night. The constellations are those the ancients knew, Orion, Lyra, and the Great Bear, eternal watchers of mortal lives. As you find a place to rest, a flat stone beneath a fig tree, the city breathes around you, not loudly, not urgently, but with the calm inhale and exhale of a place that has lived long and endured much. And in this quiet, beneath the stars, the ancient city of Athens welcomes you, not as a visitor, but as one of its own. The day has waned, but the ancient city of Athens is not a city that sleeps with the sun. As twilight deepens, a quiet transformation unfolds. The white walls of homes, once gleaming under Helios' gaze, now absorb the softness of evening shadows. The city takes a breath, slow and measured, like a beast settling into rest. Yet, even in rest, it stirs. You step carefully through narrow alleys where the stones underfoot still radiate the warmth of day. The homes are simple, but proud, modest facades hiding lively scenes behind heavy wooden doors. From the open windows drift the mingled scents of lentils, herbs, and smoke. A father calls gently to his son in the courtyard. The boy giggles and dashes after a clay hoop. From inside, a mother's voice reminds them that supper is nearly ready. You pass a small group of men gathered outside a taverna. Their laughter bubbles up into the night like rising steam, full of wine and good spirits. They lean on their elbows, drinking from broad clay cups, talking of politics, of trade, of the Spartans, always the Spartans. Yet tonight their voices are not sharp with rivalry but softened by the warmth of the fire nearby. Inside the taverna, shadows flicker on the walls as oil lamps sway gently with the breeze. The glow they cast is amber and alive, like a beating heart at the center of every room. Further down the slope, a market square, once bustling and noisy, now lies in peaceful retreat. The stalls have been packed, the goods covered with linen cloths, yet still the place holds presence. Stray dogs sniff at empty corners, and a lone musician plucks a lyre, playing to no audience but the dark. He sits cross-legged beside a column, head bowed, fingers moving with practiced ease. His tune is slow, cyclical, like a thought turning over itself. The sound echoes faintly along the marble portico and drifts into the evening air. The people of the ancient city of Athens do not rush through the night. They move with patience, with deliberation. The day belongs to effort, the night to reflection. You see a woman lighting a small terracotta lamp outside her door, its wick catching flame with a soft puff. She whispers a quiet prayer to Hestia, goddess of the hearth. Her hands, though worn, are gentle in their motions, as if following a dance learned long ago. And the streets, how different they become in this light. Their rough edges softened, their noise tempered. The sounds of the day, hammer on bronze, shouts from the agora, clatter of wheels, have faded. What remains is rhythm, a distant drum, the swish of sandals, a child's song rising from a balcony. You continue walking and sense the pulse of the city, not one of urgency, but of ancient continuity. The ancient city of Athens does not pretend to be perfect. It is scarred by battle, shaped by time, and alive with contradiction. But tonight, beneath a dome of stars, it is beautiful, not in the way of marble temples, but in the way a quiet thought at dusk can be beautiful, unexpected, fleeting, and deeply human. And so the city awakens, not with light and noise, but with warmth and memory. Every doorway, every flickering lamp, every voice murmuring beneath the stars is a thread in the grand tapestry of the night. And as you walk deeper into the ancient city of Athens, you feel it wrap gently around you, a living, breathing lullaby sung in the language of stone and silence. Near the edge of the city, where the walls rise like gentle shoulders, protecting the heart of the ancient city of Athens, An older man tends to a brazier. He stirs the coals slowly, watching the embers dance. His dog lies curled beside him, ears twitching at every distant footstep. The man is silent, but his eyes scan the sky, following a constellation only he remembers. Perhaps he's thinking of his youth, of battles fought, or of poems once recited beneath that very sky. Far above the rooftops, the statues of gods stand still, pale silhouettes against the night. They watch, as they always have, with marble eyes and eternal poise. Their gaze falls over potters and priests alike, over lovers sharing a final glance before parting. Tonight, as on so many nights before, the divine and the mundane share space without conflict, without rush. This is the balance the ancient city of Athens holds dear. And somewhere, far enough not to be seen, but near enough to be felt, the sea whispers to the city. Its voice is the hush of waves on sand, the promise of journeys yet to be taken, and the people listen, even in sleep, to its ancient rhythm. You step through a wooden gate and into the heart of an Athenian home. The threshold is low, and the door creaks softly as it opens, revealing a courtyard open to the sky. This is not a place of luxury, but of function and comfort in its own quiet way. The stone underfoot is cool, swept clean, and at its center lies a small altar to Hestia, the goddess of the hearth. A single flame dances in a clay bowl, casting a warm circle of light that pulses gently with the night breeze. The family moves through the space with ease, like the slow choreography of a familiar song. The father, bearded and quiet, arranges olive oil and bread on a low table. His wife, hair tied back with a woven ribbon, ladles lentil stew into wide, shallow bowls. The children bring water in small jars, their bare feet padding softly on the flagstones. There is no rush, no shouting, only the murmur of shared routine. The air smells of garlic, of rosemary, and of oil warmed over the hearth. The home is small, but layered in memory. Along one wall, shelves hold clay vessels, some plain, others painted with scenes of gods and battles. Above them hang tools, bits of fabric, and baskets. A life not hidden away, but lived openly. In one corner, a loom stands tall and silent for the night, threads half woven, waiting for morning hands. Against another wall rests a cot where the youngest child sleeps already, thumb in mouth, face peaceful. The rooms branch off from the courtyard like petals from a flower. There's a space for eating, another for sleeping, one for storing grain and wine. The women of the house move mostly within these bounds. Their world, though smaller in geography, is vast in care. They hold the rhythm of the home, its breath and pulse. A small lamp burns in the sleeping chamber. Its light flickers across a wall, painted with faded symbols, patterns more decorative than divine, but no less sacred to those who see them daily. You hear whispers from within, not meant for your ears, but soft and rhythmic. A lullaby, perhaps, or prayer, words meant to soothe and anchor. Outside, the father smiles as he sits with his eldest son, speaking of ships, of Sparta, of the stars. You are offered a place by the fire, and though you are a visitor in silence, your presence is not unwelcome. The night is for closeness, for rest, and for sharing what little one has. You take in the soft glow of the coals, the slow shifting of bodies settling into stillness, and the harmony that lives in these walls, not loud, not boastful, but enduring. Outside, the sounds of the street are muffled now. Inside, the house holds warmth like a cupped hand. It is a pocket of peace within a world that still turns, still breathes, still dreams. The night deepens, but here, within the gentle boundaries of this Athenian home, time has lost its urgency. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the flicker of the flame, the rustle of linen, the soft breathing of the sleeping child. In this space, you are not visitor or stranger. You are simply another soul beneath the stars, embraced by stone, shadow, and the quiet language of belonging. From beyond the courtyard wall, the faint voice of a neighbor drifts in, singing an old melody as she sweeps her own doorway. It is a tune passed down through generations, with no known composer, only memory. Music in the ancient city of Athens is not a performance, but a part of living, woven into the motions of the day like threads in a tunic. The father, now seated with a cup of wine, speaks softly of things beyond the city, of mountains in the north, of merchants from Phoenicia, of stories told to him when he was a boy. The son listens, eyes wide, head tilted. In the ancient city of Athens, learning begins not in the schoolroom, but at the hearth, in story, in silence, in watching. Soon, one by one, the lights in the home are dimmed. The courtyard grows darker, lit only by the moon, which now rests high above the house. The stars seem closer now, their reflections caught in the polished bronze of a water basin left beside the altar. A single cat curls up at the foot of the doorway, watching with unblinking eyes. And all around you, the house breathes in sleep, slow, quiet, and full of peace. Beyond the central courtyard, separated by a modest doorway and thick woven curtain, lies the part of the Athenian home known as the gynaikonitis, the women's quarters. Here, life moves differently. The air is scented with lavender and oil, and the quiet is not emptiness, but focus. You step softly across the threshold into a world that hums with quiet diligence and the grace of practiced hands. A woman sits at a low stool, spinning wool. Her fingers move rhythmically, drawing thread from tufts of fleece with such ease that it seems effortless. Beside her, a younger girl tends to a loom, her work slower, more careful. The warp and weft stretch between wooden beams, and the pattern that emerges is simple but strong, meant for tunics, not ceremony. They do not speak much. Their labor is conversation enough, measured in gestures, in the clink of tools, in glances exchanged. A jar of fresh water stands in the corner, its surface cool to the touch. Herbs, sage, thyme, mint, hang from the ceiling, drying slowly in the summer air. The space is orderly, but not strict. It holds warmth. On a small shelf, clay dolls and polished stones suggest the presence of children, while a hand-carved comb rests beside a bowl of crushed pigment. Beauty is not absent here. It simply resides in utility. In this part of the house, stories are passed down not through grand speeches, but in small whispers between women and girls. Recipes, prayers, and household wisdom flow like threads between generations. One woman hums softly, a lullaby from her own mother, barely audible, but felt like a heartbeat. Another sorts dried lentils for the next day's meal, her movements careful, her thoughts elsewhere. A heavy curtain sways gently in the night breeze, revealing a glimpse of the courtyard beyond. Though close in space, the worlds of men and women rarely overlap in full. Yet the home stands only because both realms coexist, each carrying a different weight, a different rhythm. Tonight, the women finish their tasks without haste. The eldest among them lights a lamp and places it near the floor, letting the flame stretch shadows along the plastered walls. One by one, the others begin to settle. Beds are laid out, thin mats upon the cool stone, and bodies are wrapped in woven linen. Voices soften further until only the crackle of the lamp remains. You sit quietly in the corner, unseen, as they rest. The hush here is not the silence of isolation, but of presence, of lives lived in tandem, in rhythm, in cycles. The gynaikonitis is not hidden in shame, but guarded in care. It is the womb of the home, where life is tended and the pulse of the house maintained. As sleep finds the women, their faces soften, their hands relax. The labor of the day gives way to the stillness of night. Outside, the wind rustles the olive branches, and within these walls, peace settles like dust, unnoticed, but everywhere. In the corner, beneath a woven tapestry that depicts a simple olive tree, sits a young girl with a scroll. She reads aloud, slowly, her words tracing the lines of a story half remembered from yesterday. The scroll is worn, its edges frayed, but the ink still holds firm, testament to its importance. It is not a tale of war or gods, but of a woman and her harvest, of family and ritual. This is the history passed quietly, not recorded by scribes, but kept alive in breath and voice. The older women listen as they work, nodding at familiar phrases. For them, each word is a reminder of seasons, of prayers, of births and partings. A life lived in this space is not one of public legacy, but of enduring presence, and yet the city would falter without it. As the girl's voice fades, the room returns to stillness. The lamp flickers low, and the night presses gently against the clay walls. No one stirs. The silence is complete now, filled only with the breath of sleep, the cooling of stone, and the quiet watchfulness of those who keep the home whole. As the stars brighten overhead and the air grows cooler, the household gathers once more in the courtyard for the final ritual of the day, dinner. It is not a grand feast, but something more sacred, the quiet communion of a family sharing warmth, food, and memory beneath the sky. The father sits cross-legged near the hearth, his hands calloused from labor, yet gentle as he breaks bread. The mother ladles steaming stew into clay bowls, the aroma thick with garlic, lentils, and crushed herbs. Children pass around olives, figs, and a small dish of goat cheese, simple foods, yet rich in flavor and in history. The wine, diluted with water, is poured carefully, its deep red hue catching the firelight. As mouths are filled, so too are the silences, not with noise, but with stories. The eldest son leans forward, eyes gleaming, as he recounts a tale told by a friend in the agora. It is the story of a clever fox and a sleeping lion, one that draws chuckles from the younger children and knowing smiles from the adults. When he finishes, the grandfather, his voice slower, lined with time, begins to speak. His tale is older. It speaks of gods and men, of the birth of Athena from the head of Zeus, of the great sea battles that once saved the city. His hands move as he speaks, painting pictures in the air, each gesture echoing through the courtyard. The fire crackles gently, casting golden shapes on the stone walls, and the shadows lean forward, as if to listen too. These stories are not merely entertainment, they are inheritance. Through them, each member of the family becomes a thread in a larger tapestry, one that stretches back generations and reaches toward those not yet born. The tales told by the fire are more than myth. They are the code by which the Athenians remember who they are. After the stories, there is laughter, light, genuine, a moment of closeness that lingers longer than the words themselves. Someone sings, off-key, but with joy, and others join in, their voices layered like the notes of a lyre. Even the dog, curled beside the fire, lifts its head for a moment as if to contribute a soft sigh. Plates are cleaned with bits of bread, and the wine jars grow lighter. The fire burns lower, and the night deepens. Around them, the city sleeps, but within this courtyard, life still stirs gently. There is no rush to end the evening. Time slows in these final moments. Like breath before sleep, one by one, family members rise. Beds are prepared, feet are washed, the last embers stirred. Yet no one forgets the warmth of the stories, the taste of bread, or the shared laughter. The fire may fade, but its memory glows long after. Tonight, like so many nights before, the flames have bound them together, not in spectacle, but in the quiet magic of being present. A girl, no older than 10, looks up at her grandfather and asks a question, innocent, curious. "Did the gods ever walk among us?" The old man smiles, not with amusement but reverence. His answer is not direct. He speaks of the wind on Mount Olympus, of dreams sent by Apollo, of how sometimes the divine is not seen but felt, in the hush before dawn, in the spark of a new idea, in the bravery of an ordinary man. The girl nods solemnly, as if she understands more than words alone can teach. Overhead, the moon now sits higher, a silver witness to the gathering. It casts long shadows through the latticework of vines that wind along the courtyard wall. In the quiet that follows the last sip of wine, someone points upward, at Orion, or perhaps the Pleiades, and they speak softly of the constellations. The night sky becomes another kind of storybook, one written in ancient ink and infinite distance. And as the fire dies down to a warm bed of coals, a final tale is told. It is short, almost whispered, about a traveler who followed the stars and found home in a place he never expected. There is no moral, no dramatic end, just a quiet sense of completion. The way all good stories should end, like the day itself, closing its eyes without regret. The courtyard now quiet. You step outside and begin to walk toward the heart of the ancient city of Athens, the Agora. Though the crowds of day have vanished, the space still holds energy, like embers beneath ash. The Agora is not just a market. It is the pulse of the city, a living square where thought and commerce meet. Even now, under the silver weight of the moon, its wide stone paths and colonnades whisper with memory. The night air is cool, but not cold. It smells of dust and olives, of distant fires and damp stone. The torchlit corners of the square reveal idle stalls covered with cloth, abandoned for the night, but not forgotten. A few figures still drift through the open space. A pair of students in quiet debate, an old vendor rearranging amphorae by habit, and a street dog trotting by with a bone clutched proudly in its mouth. You walk past the stoas, long arcades of marble columns, silent now but resonant with the day's echoes. Here stood the philosophers and orators, their words sharp as arrows in the morning sun. Now their ghosts linger quietly, thoughts suspended in the thick night air. You pause beneath a broad portico, the floor beneath your feet worn smooth by generations. The silence here feels sacred, as though the very stones remember the minds that walked above them. To your right, a statue of Hermes stands half-shadowed, his gaze fixed eternally over the square. At his feet, someone has left a sprig of rosemary, a quiet offering, or perhaps a habit too old to question. The gods do not speak tonight, but their presence is not absent. It hums through the paving stones and flutters in the moths dancing around the torches. Farther on, you pass a bench where two older men speak in low tones. One gestures broadly with his hands, describing something, perhaps a trial or a new tax. The other listens, then laughs, slapping his knee with a sound that startles a bird from its roost. There is comfort in their routine, in the way they speak as though time itself might pause to let their thoughts unwind. As you stroll, your pace slows. The agora invites reflection. Each pillar, each stone, bears the weight of thousands of thoughts, traded like coins. You imagine the great minds who once passed this way, Socrates perhaps, or Pericles, their sandals brushing these very same paths. The city was their canvas, the square their stage. Now, under the stars, the agora is something else, a cathedral of absence, a poem written in marble and shadow. And as your steps echo softly through the square, You feel a strange kinship with those long gone, not in grandeur, but in quiet observation. You pause beside a fountain. Water trickles endlessly into a basin carved from stone. You dip your fingers in and feel the coolness, real and grounding. In this moment, the ancient city of Athens is not history, it is presence, it is now. You continue your walk toward the edge of the agora, where a row of small shrines catches your eye. They are unassuming, simple stone boxes adorned with fading carvings and traces of pigment, but each bears a flicker of devotion. A single coin left on a ledge, a feather tucked into a crevice, a smear of wax from a long-gone candle. These are not monuments to power, but to quiet belief, the kind that asks nothing grand in return. A voice breaks the stillness. A man kneels before one of the shrines, whispering a prayer. You cannot hear the words, but the cadence tells a story of longing. When he stands, he leaves behind a piece of bread wrapped in cloth. Then he walks away, vanishing into the shadowed colonnade. The agora is emptying now. Only the most faithful or the most restless remain. But you linger. There is something about this space, in this hour, that speaks louder than any speech, louder than the chants of daylight. The marble, the bronze, the earth beneath your feet, it all holds memory, and tonight it speaks only in whispers. You take one last look before turning to leave. The square, washed in moonlight, seems to exhale. It gives nothing, and yet offers everything. Silence, space, and the knowledge that you are not the first to pass this way in wonder, and will not be the last. Not far from the agora, along a shaded path lined with ancient plane trees, you find him, a solitary figure seated on a smooth stone bench, cloaked in a simple himation, the folds of his garment blending with the dimness of the trees. He sits with one leg tucked beneath him, a scroll open on his lap, but his eyes are not on the words. They are fixed on the night sky, as if searching for meaning in the stars. You draw nearer without speaking. The man nods in greeting, but does not turn. He gestures toward a stone beside him, inviting you to sit. You do so, and, for a time, there is only silence, a silence that is not empty, but full of weight. The rustle of leaves, the occasional chirp of a cricket, the distant murmur of water in a nearby fountain. These are the voices that fill the space between breaths. At last, he speaks. His voice is low, deliberate, with the timbre of someone accustomed to being heard. "What is justice?" he asks, as if plucking the thought from thin air. It is not a challenge, nor a lesson. It is a shared wondering. He waits, but does not press for an answer. He speaks again, of the soul and its yearning for truth, of how wisdom begins not in knowledge, but in the admission of ignorance. He speaks not to impress, but to explore, and with each word the world seems to slow. You begin to forget where you are. So immersed are you in the rhythm of his thoughts, in the gentle tides of question and reflection. He quotes lines from Homer, from Hesiod, from the old poets whose voices still echo in the minds of the living. He tells you of Socrates, not as a legend, but as a man he once heard speak, barefoot and stern, surrounded by youths and skeptics. His stories are soft-edged, shaped by time and memory, but still bright with insight. As he speaks, a breeze picks up, rustling the branches above. The moonlight filters through the leaves, casting shifting patterns on the ground. He looks down, traces the dust with a fingertip, drawing a circle. "All things return," he murmurs, "to the soil, to the sea, to silence." He does not elaborate. He does not need to. Eventually, his words drift into quiet again. The philosopher closes his scroll, sets it aside, and looks at you. Really looks. There is no judgment in his eyes, only a kind of soft understanding. Then he stands, stretches slowly, and begins to walk away into the trees, his silhouette absorbed by the shadows. You remain seated, the stone cool beneath you, the air rich with thought. His words linger, not in your ears, but deeper, in the space between thoughts, in the folds of memory that only awaken in stillness. Beneath the ancient plane trees of the ancient city of Athens, you have not found answers, but something better, the peace that comes from asking. You lean back against the stone, letting the quiet settle in. The sky above is so vast, so clear, that it feels like a sea turned upside down. You think of the philosopher's words, of circles and cycles, of silence and soil, and you wonder how many others have sat in this very spot, grappling with the same questions. How many have looked to the stars not for answers, but for reminders that the questions themselves matter most. The trees sway gently overhead, and you realize the philosopher never gave his name. It wasn't needed. His presence was not about identity, but presence itself. You feel as though you've shared something sacred, a moment of clarity wrapped in simplicity. In the distance, the sounds of the city are hushed to a faint murmur. Even the torches seem to burn more quietly now. Time stretches, like the long shadow of a sundial at dusk. Here, under the plane trees, thought becomes a kind of music, one that does not demand attention but offers companionship. Eventually, you rise. The bench is still warm where he sat. You dust off your hands and look once more at the stars, the constellations unchanged, though somehow, tonight, they feel more personal. As you turn to leave the grove, you carry with you not a conclusion, but a conversation, one that continues softly within you. As you leave the grove behind, the gentle hush of night deepens. The streets of the ancient city of Athens lie in quiet slumber, their corners softened by shadow, their alleys laced with the cool scent of dust and time. Torches sputter low, casting flickering halos on the stone walls, and every footstep seems louder in the stillness, though there is no one to hear. Yet the city is not unguarded. From time to time, a figure moves with purpose, the night watch. Draped in a dark cloak, he carries a staff and a small bronze bell tucked silently beneath his robe. His eyes sweep the lanes with practiced ease. He does not expect trouble, not tonight, but the ancient city of Athens watches itself, even in rest. The guard passes a closed shop and pauses briefly, his gaze lingering on the latch. Satisfied, he continues. He greets no one, for there is no one to greet. But he walks as if in conversation with the city itself, each step a whispered vow. We are still here. We are still whole. Cats dart from doorway to rooftop. A dog shifts in sleep, ears flicking at the breeze. Somewhere, a door creaks and closes, soft and final. Above, the night sky stretches wide, a black canvas scattered with stars. The moon is low now, brushing the western horizon, its light softer, almost gold. The city breathes, not in movement, but in presence. You walk past quiet homes, their windows shuttered, their walls holding the warmth of stories just told, each building a vessel, each doorway a pause in the poem of stone and time. And within, families sleep, children curled beside siblings, hands resting gently in dreams they cannot yet speak aloud. You come to a small tower, where a brazier glows at the top. Another watchman stands there, silhouetted against the fire. He does not look down, but outward, toward the hills, toward the sea, toward the darkness beyond the reach of lamp and hearth. His post is one of waiting, not for invasion, but for dawn. The ancient city of Athens is a city of minds, of trade, of temples. But tonight, it is something else, a sanctuary of sleep, of memory, and of the simple promise that morning will return. The guard knows this. He watches not only with his eyes, but with his silence. And as you stand there, just below the tower, you feel it too, a deep and resonant peace, not of victory or triumph, but of continuation, of breath, of stillness, of the city, keeping itself safe through the quiet loyalty of those who walk without applause. You continue walking, your steps quiet as you pass another intersection where a torch burns steadily in its iron cradle. A bat swoops low and disappears into the shadows above, and for a moment you feel the city exhale, not loudly, not suddenly, but like a long breath held too long. It is the breath of rest, of stories paused, of life wrapped in linen and sleep. Beyond the city gate, just out of sight, the countryside stretches, olive groves, stone farms, silent roads snaking toward distant coastlines. Even these distant lands feel bound to the pulse of the city. They, too, are quiet now. Somewhere, a farmer stirs in his sleep. Somewhere, a cart waits in the dark for morning's wheel. And still, the watchman waits. His posture does not shift, but there is no stiffness in it, only patience, like a statue that remembers it is alive. His eyes scan the horizon not in fear, but in vigilance, as though he carries not only the weight of duty, but of trust, placed upon him by 1,000 other sleepers. You look up once more to the tower, and the fire behind him flickers. He turns briefly, and in that moment you meet his gaze. It is calm. It says nothing, but somehow it tells you. All is well, and in a world so often restless, that is a comfort deeper than words. The road bends gently uphill, and with each step, the silhouette of the sacred Acropolis grows more distinct against the deep indigo sky. You ascend slowly, your feet brushing ancient stones that have borne the weight of countless pilgrims, thinkers, and kings. Tonight, there are no processions, no trumpets, no grand ceremonies, only silence and the whisper of wind between columns. At the summit, the Parthenon rises, luminous in the starlight. Its columns glow pale and ghostly, their fluted sides catching shadows in waves. The temple feels alive, not in movement, but in memory. You approach with reverence, as if your very breath might disturb its ancient peace. A few others have come here tonight. A woman kneels near the eastern steps, her hands clasped in prayer. Before her rests a small bundle, olives, honey, and a single white flower, an offering. She speaks no words aloud, but her posture tells a story of hope and devotion. You do not intrude. You wait until she finishes, and when she rises and departs, the stillness returns, deeper than before. You step between the columns. Inside, the air is cool and dry, scented faintly with wax and aged stone. Shadows stretch like fingers across the marble floor. Though the great statue of Athena no longer stands here, her spirit is felt in the stillness, in the geometry, in the air itself. This is her city, her hill, her temple. A priest, draped in a linen robe, tends a lamp in a small recess of the temple wall. He does not speak to you, but nods once, a silent welcome. You nod in return. The flame flickers. As he pours fresh oil, the ritual is familiar to him as breathing. He hums a few notes of an old hymn, his voice barely more than a breath. The song is for the goddess, but it settles in your chest like a lullaby. Outside, the night wraps the city in a deep, slow silence. From this height, you can see the roofs of the ancient city of Athens, like a sea of shadows, dotted with the faint glow of lamps and fires. The city feels smaller from here, more intimate. It is no longer a place of noise and movement, but of rest, of quiet reverence. You light a small taper at the sacred flame and place it on the stone ledge, adding your own light to the countless that have burned before. You think not of requests, but of thanks for the peace of the night, for the stillness of the temple, for the presence of the past. The flame dances, and in its movement you see echoes of centuries. Then, without a word, you step back and descend the hill. The path feels softer now, the world quieter, and behind you the Parthenon stands watch, its light unwavering, its silence eternal. As you make your way down the sacred hill, you pass by smaller temples tucked into terraces and groves, shrines to Artemis, to Hephaestus, and to the forgotten gods of the household. Each one bears signs of love, burned incense, fruit left in offering, coins slipped between stones. These gifts are not grand, but sincere, given by hands that trust in the unseen. The gravel crunches underfoot. A breeze rustles through the olive trees. The night air tastes of earth and time. There is no rush. This descent feels like a return, not to the city below, but to yourself. Each step away from the temple feels less like leaving, and more like carrying a piece of that silence with you. Far below, a rooster crows early, confused by the moonlight. You smile. Even the animals are stirred by the stillness. You pause once more at a ledge overlooking the city. There are no armies here, no thunderous monuments, just rooftops and courtyards, lamplight and sleep. And above it all, the Parthenon keeps watch, not as fortress, but as memory, carved in stone and reverence. The path winds gently downhill, bringing you back into the body of the city. The ancient city of Athens, once alive with chatter and footsteps, now lies wrapped in silence. Shutters are drawn, fires are low, and voices have quieted into dreams. You pass doorways and courtyards dimly lit by the last flickers of oil lamps. Even the dogs have ceased their wandering, curled up in corners like forgotten statues. Somewhere, a lyre plays a final note, perhaps a lullaby for a restless child, or perhaps just a gesture to the gods, a good night shared with Olympus. The note lingers in the air, long after it's played, carried gently by the breeze. You close your eyes and listen. There is a music to this moment, one not made by hands but by presence, the rustling of trees, the creak of timbers, the faint rhythm of breath behind closed doors. The streets are nearly empty now, but you are not alone. You pass another late walker, his robe drawn close, head bowed. You nod silently. He nods back. No words are exchanged, yet something is shared, a reverence for the hour, for the calm that only comes when the world has let go. The moon has lowered behind the hills. The stars fade at the edges, like ink diluted by light. Soon the sky will begin to shift, from black to violet, then to the pale blue of morning. But not yet. The city rests, and so do its thoughts. You stop before a familiar wall, one etched with the worn graffiti of young philosophers and lovers, names carved, ideas scratched, hearts drawn in uncertain hands. Even in sleep, the city holds its memory close. A history not kept in books, but in breath, in stone, in the quiet weight of time. At last, you return to your place, a bed prepared, a blanket smoothed, a corner lamp still glowing. You lie down slowly, the stone floor cool beneath your mat, the night air brushing your face. Your eyes grow heavy, but your mind is calm. The journey has ended not in destination, but in stillness. Outside, the ancient city of Athens sleeps. The temples, the towers, the homes, all held in the same dark embrace, the kind that asks nothing, expects nothing, only gives space to be. And so you drift, not away from the city, but deeper into its dreams, its breath, its centuries of rest. You do not need to say goodbye. The ancient city of Athens will still be here when you wake, ancient, eternal, and quietly alive. Sleep settles slowly, like mist over hills. You feel your body become heavier, more distant, and yet a part of you remains awake, watching, sensing, not restless, but aware. Aware of the breath of history around you, of the quiet conversations that linger in empty rooms, of the footsteps that once moved, where now only wind drifts. Somewhere in the city, a candle gutters and goes out. A final moment of resistance before surrender. Another dream begins, perhaps of a boat crossing the Aegean, perhaps of a hand reaching out in love, perhaps of nothing at all. You imagine the city as a single body now, vast, sprawling, and at peace. Its heartbeat, the turning of earth, its breath, the hush of trees, its dreams as old as firelight and cave songs. There are no boundaries here, no rooftops, no laws, only being, only rest. And in that stillness, something ancient moves through you. Not a thought, not a memory, but a knowing that all things come to this, to silence, to safety, to sleep. You let go completely now. Let the city fade not from presence, but into dream. Let its marble and dust, its olive branches and firelight carry you inward to a place without time, without effort, where the world is soft and history waits quietly at the edge of sleep. And as the stars dim and the sky prepares for dawn, you are already gone, not far, but deep, deep into rest, into memory, into the gentle arms of the ancient city of Athens. Good night.